Good morning. We're going to talk about perimeter and area of compound shapes. Compound shapes just mean there's multiple shapes added onto each other. This is more realistic if you think of floor plans and houses and things like that. You would need to find the perimeter for things like trim, and you need to find area for things like carpet and flooring and painting the walls. That's about an area. But anyways, so we're going to start with perimeter. So to remind you, perimeter is the distance around a shape. So you're going to add all the sides. So I'm going to write over here. We're going to add all the sides. The only extra element in this section will be circles. If you do a circle, the portion of the circle that is the perimeter is what we call the circumference. So if you have a circle, you're going to end up finding the circumference. Ran out of room. And then you also might have a half a circle, which means you'll find half of the circumference. I'll just stop there. Okay? So that's for perimeter, which is this first portion that we're going to be dealing with. We're going to be adding all the sides. If we have a circle, finding the circumference. If we have half of a circle, what we call a semicircle, you'll find the circumference, but then divide it by 2. So this first one has just straight edges, so we're just going to start adding. So we have 3.5, we have 5, we have another 3.5. This portion will be the same measure as this because this is a rectangle. So this will also be 1.5. I'm going to go ahead and add 1.5, 1.5 twice. You can do part of this in your head because 1.5 and 1.5 do make the number 3. But if you don't want to do it in your head, that's fine. You just keep adding. We're going to add 3.5. We're going to add another 5. And then last, we're going to add the 3.5. So we're going to add all of those together. I do recommend showing this because if, heaven forbid, you typed something in wrong but didn't catch it, you'd be able to get points for, attempting, but also showing that you do know how to do it, but you probably made a calculator error. The second thing I recommend is typing it in twice just to make sure you didn't miss anything. But this one you get 27. It does say meters. Perimeter, you don't say square units. You just say the linear units, which means there's 27 meters all the way around this object. So that is our first example. Our second is a rectangle on the inside, and then we have 2 half circles, which makes a whole circle. The most common thing that people get wrong is that they try to include the dotted portion in their final answer, but we're finding the perimeter of the outer edge. The inside portion, those lines are only there to help us find the perimeter of the outer edge. So we're going to keep that in mind. We can obviously include the easy portions, which would be the 2 17s. But then we have to add in whatever the perimeter is of this circle. So to find the perimeter of a circle, the perimeter is called circumference. You can either use pi times d or 2 pi r. You just want to pick which one you were given. We were given the length all the way across as 34, so that means the diameter is 34. So we're going to use pi times d. So pi times 34. So 3.14 times 34. We get 106.76. That accounts for the circle. We still need to account for the 2 straight sides. So that would be 17 plus 17, which is 34. So add these two together, We get 140.76, and it would be centimeters. All right, and then the last one, I'm going to give myself a little more room. So again, finding the perimeter. I'll start with the straight edges. We know this portion is 7, which means this portion is 7. And then we have 16. And we have 6. And then we have a half of a circle. So we need to find the perimeter, aka the circumference of this circle, but then we're going to cut it in half. So we either are going to use pi times d or 2 pi r. We don't know the radius, but we can find the diameter, so we're going to use pi times d. This portion is a rectangle, so the top and the bottom side will be the same length. If the bottom side is 16 centimeters and we already have 6 centimeters of the top, that means that our diameter here will be 10 centimeters, because 10 plus 6 is 16. So pi times my diameter, which is 10. So 3.14 times 10 is 31.4. But keep in mind, this is of a whole circle. This circumference formula is for an entire circle, but we only have half of it, so we do have to half this, so divide by 2. 31.4 divided by 2, which means 15.7. 15.7 is the circumference of our half circle. So we're going to add that in to our 7 plus 7 plus 16 plus 6. So this makes 36. Add in the half circle, which is 15.7. And we get 51.7 centimeters. So the main thing that people get wrong, as you could probably guess, is the half circle. Just make sure if it is not the entire circle, that you will half it. We didn't half over here because we had 2 halves. If you have a half a sandwich and a half a sandwich, that makes a whole sandwich. So we only did the whole circumference formula. So it's a little bit different there. This next one is to describe and correct the error question. You will have one of these on your test, for sure. It'll look a little different, obviously, but same idea. They found the perimeter. They said they added 3, they added 4, they added the 5, and then it says they added 15.7. They used the circumference formula, pi times d. They said the diameter of the circle was 5, and then they multiplied it and they got 15.7. Added all that up, and they got 27.7. So we're going to figure out what went wrong. My recommendation always is to do these yourself, and then we'll describe the error after that. So remember that perimeter is around the whole shape, so I can already kind of see where one problem was, but we're going to take 3 plus 4, and then we're going to add in the half circle. Half circle. So to find the perimeter of the circle, we're going to find the circumference. They did give us the diameter. So the diameter is 5. So circumference equals pi times d. So pi times 5. I'll type that in. We get 15.7. But it is a half of a circle, and we found the circumference of a whole circle. So we'll have to divide that by 2. I got 7.85. We'll combine it with the 3 and the 4, which makes 7. So we should get 14.85 centimeters. So it does say describe and correct it. We corrected the error. Now we need to describe the error. I see 2 errors. 5 is not included in the perimeter, or should not be, I guess, is a better way to say it. 5 shouldn't be included in the perimeter. That's the number 1 problem I see. It's not one of the main sides. It's just used to find the circumference of the circle. The second problem was then they didn't half. This is a really simple way to say it. They didn't half the circumference of the circle. So this would be our description, something explaining both problems in this problem. You can pause to finish writing that down. And then we'll move on to area. So area is the portion inside of a shape. You have to use area formulas. So to remind you, the area formula of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Keep in mind that the hypotenuse, if you have a right triangle, the hypotenuse is never the base or the height. I'll show you an example. I'll give you a second to write that down. So it's always 1/2 base times height. The hypotenuse will never be the base or the height. So this portion will never be base or height. You would have to use the horizontal and the vertical side as your base and your height. Another one would be a rectangle or a square. You can use the same one technically, and that would be length times width. It really doesn't matter which one you call length and width, just that you use each of those numbers once. The last one is a circle. The area of a circle is pi r squared. Pi r squared, where r is the radius. So we're going to find the area and then round to the nearest hundredth if needed. So let's start with, we have 2 circles. Well, actually we have 2 half circles, which make a whole circle. So we have a circle that we're going to find the area of, then we're going to add it to this shape. It is going to be technically a square, but if you would call it a rectangle, a square is a specific type of rectangle, so that's fine. So it is one whole circle we're going to find the area of, because 2 halves make a whole. So we're going to do pi r squared. The radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge, which is going to be 8. So pi times 8 squared. So 8 squared is 64. 64 times 3.14 is 200.96. So that accounts for my 2 circles. Or my 2 half circles, sorry. My square, the reason I knew it was a square, and the reason I knew my radius was 8, is in a circle, you have a center. So if these 2 circles were combined, where I put the dot would be the center. If the distance from the center to the edge here is 8, the definition of a circle means that the distance here would also have to be 8, which means down here would be 8, down here would be 8, and up here would be 8. So The area of a square, you can do length times width. You technically could do sides squared, it doesn't really matter, but that one is specific to a square. But the length is 16, and the width, 8 plus 8, is still 16, which I believe is 256. It is. Going to add that to our 200.96. And we get 456.96. This is area, so you say units squared or square units. It means we could fit 456 squares inside of this shape. The second one, we've got two things going on once again. So we've got a rectangle. And then, again, we have two halves of a circle. So, two halves will make a whole, so a whole circle. Sorry, I ran out of room. The area of a rectangle will be length times width, so you need length times width. Well, down here, the length is 1, so up here the length is also 1. So 1 times our width, which is 10. So 1 times 10 is obviously 10. We'll add that to our circle. So we're going to do pi r squared. So the most common thing I would say people do is look at this 1 and think it's the radius or the diameter, but it is not. Up here, if you see this is 2, it shows that the diameter is 2. All the way through is 2. So the radius is going to be half that. The radius will be 1. So pi times 1 squared, 1 times 1 is obviously 1. 1 times pi is 3.14. So to find our area, we add them together, and we'd say centimeters squared or square centimeters. All right, this is the last one. There is an application question like this on your test for sure. There might be more than one even. A school has a garden in the shape of a pencil. A fence is to be built around the garden. The fence costs $2.75 per foot. How much will it cost to install the fence? So you need to decide if a fence is perimeter or area. So does a fence talk about the length around a shape or inside of a shape? It's what you use to go around the shape. So this would be perimeter. So if you want to mark that, fence is perimeter. So we're going to add all the side lengths of the outer. So we have 9 and 9. We have 20 plus 20. Down here would also be 20. Remember that the dotted lines on the inside are not included in perimeter. What is included is this half circle. So we need to find the perimeter of a half circle. Remember that perimeter is around a shape, and how to figure out the distance around a shape will be circumference. Are you given the radius or the diameter? You're given the diameter. So pi times d, which would be pi times 12. So 3.14 times 12. If the whole circle was there, it would be 37.68. So it's not all there. It's only half of that. So we're going to divide that by 2, which is 18.4. Sorry, 18.84. We're going to add in our other sides, 9 plus 9 plus 20 plus 20. I got 58. So the perimeter is 76.84, and I believe it's feet. However, we have not finished the question. It says the fence costs $2.75 per foot. How much will it cost to install the fence? So if it's $2.75 per foot, we have 76.84 feet. So we're going to end up multiplying these together. So times 2.75. So once we do that, we get $211.31. So we found the perimeter and then multiplied times 275 per foot. In the same garden, the fertilizer will be spread amongst the dirt to promote growth. The fertilizer costs $5.25 per square foot. You can kind of use that as a hint as to what we're going to be doing here. How much will it cost to cover the garden? So this time, we are not looking to cover the outside of the garden. We're looking to cover the inside of the garden. So all of this. So that would be area. So we're going to be ending up finding area and then multiplying 525 per foot. So let's first find, we have a triangle. To find the area, we're going to take the triangle, find that, add in the rectangle, and then we will add in the half circle. You can call it a semicircle. It's a little bit less to write if you write half circle. So we're going to start with the triangle. It is a right triangle, and this would be the hypotenuse. If you were questioning base and height, 9 and 9 are base and height, so we're good there. Times base times height. It doesn't matter what order you multiply in. You could do 9 times 9 and then times a half, or half times 9. It doesn't matter. Either way you do it, you get 40.5. That accounts for the triangle. The rectangle, we're going to do length times width. The length is 20 and the width is 12. So 20 times 12, which is 240. And then we have the half circle. So we're going to have to find the area of the whole circle and then half it. So using pi r squared. Remember, we're given the diameter. If the diameter, which is all the way through the circle, is 12, we want to find the radius, which is halfway through the circle. So the radius will be 6. So pi times 6 squared, which is pi times 36. I got 113.04. But that is of an entire circle. We only have half of a circle. So that should be 56.52. We're going to go ahead and add all three of these numbers to figure out how much square feet we have. I got 337.02 square feet. Don't circle that answer. Not yet. We want to figure out how much it will cost to cover the garden in fertilizer. It is $5.25 per square foot, so we're going to multiply. If each square foot is $5.25, we have 337.02 of that square feet. So multiply. So to cover this garden in fertilizer, after we've multiplied, is 1,769.36. It is money, so remember money only has 2 decimal places, that's why we rounded.